You pay a tax every day, not the one on your paycheck, not the one on your bill. This one doesn't send you a receipt. It doesn't need a vote. And most people don't even notice it happening because it isn't collected with paperwork. It's collected with prices. You're watching Hidden Money History. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of modern governments don't prefer raising taxes. They prefer something quieter. They let the currency do the work. When a government spends more than it collects, it has options. Raise taxes now, cut spending now, or borrow, pushing the cost into the future. Borrowing feels painless at first. No angry voters, no immediate sacrifice. Just, we'll handle it later. But later always arrives. And when the debt pile grows, one pressure grows with it. Make repayment easier. That's where the silent tax appears. If the money supply grows faster than the real economy, each unit of money buys a little less over time. That doesn't sound dramatic. It doesn't look like theft. It looks like normal life. Until you notice the pattern, your savings buy less. Your salary has to sprint just to stay in place. Your rent climbs. Your groceries climb. Your small treats turn into luxuries. And the system shrugs and says, that's just inflation. But inflation is not just a weather report. It's a policy environment. Sometimes it's triggered by supply shocks, sometimes by energy, sometimes by war. But the reason it becomes so powerful, so persistent, is that it quietly solves political problems. Because a visible tax creates resistance, a silent tax creates acceptance. And once people accept it, governments get a tool that spreads pain in tiny slices instead of one big protest. That's why the silent tax is so effective. You don't notice it in one day. You notice it after years, when the math doesn't feel fair anymore. Now here's the twist most people miss. Inflation doesn't hit everyone equally. And that's why it reshapes society. If you own assets, real estate, stocks, businesses, inflation can lift your world. Assets can rise with the tide. Debt can feel lighter over time. And you can often raise prices or negotiate returns, but if you live mostly on wages and cash savings, inflation is a grinder. Because your safe money quietly turns unsafe. That's why inflation acts like a transfer. It moves purchasing power away from people holding cash and toward people who can protect themselves with assets, pricing power, or early access to information. And history shows this isn't new. Ancient governments debased coins, same stamp, less silver. Same face, weaker value. Modern governments don't shave metal. They expand credit, run deficits, manage interest rates, and rely on systems where money grows through lending. Different machinery, same logic. And here's the darker part. Once inflation becomes normal, the system starts depending on it, not because leaders are evil, because incentives are. Debt-heavy systems quietly benefit from inflation. It makes yesterday's promises easier to repay with weaker money. So ask yourself, who wins when money weakens? If you owe money, mortgages, business loans, inflation can reduce the real burden over time. If you are owed money, if you're a saver, a lender, inflation quietly steals part of what you were promised. So the real question isn't, is inflation good or bad? The real question is, who does it protect? Because the silent tax is not collected equally. It's filtered through the structure of the economy. And it creates a psychological trap. People stop trusting saving. They start chasing risk just to survive. Speculation rises. Debt rises. The cycle feeds itself. So here's my question for the comments. If inflation is the quiet way governments pay for today with tomorrow, should there be a hard limit? An automatic brake? That triggers when the public's purchasing power drops too fast? And if you want more stories where money and power collide, subscribe to Hidden Money History, because the past leaves receipts.